New developments at ports worldwide are converging to create a new series of supply chain disruptions that are threatening to turn global trade upside down. Experts are actually using the term Doomsday Scenario to describe the threats that are emerging on the horizon. In America, several businesses are hanging by a thread as supply chain issues become the new normal. Meanwhile, chaos is making a comeback at ports, and the worsening shortage of containers means more shipping delays are ahead. Today, we've brought you a breakdown of everything that's going wrong in the system right now, and some concerning predictions of what we will be facing as we enter the back half of the year. Before moving on, please give us your support by leaving a thumbs up and subscribing to our channel so you don't miss our future videos. A new report released by the business group US Logistics Inc. revealed that supply chain disruptions are set to worsen throughout the third and fourth quarters of 2022, as a series of local and global factors have caused issues for all elements of the supply chain, with bottlenecks such as a growing shortage of shipping containers, labor strife at ports, and a lack of enough truck drivers, warehouse space, and semiconductor chips all impacting on the way that goods are moved around the world. According to Dan Wells, the company's chief executive officer, the past 2 years have been a period like no other for our supply chain, with disruptions forcing constant changes in the ways goods move both domestically and internationally. And at the same time, shipping companies have been facing significant increases in fuel and also in freight costs. Diesel prices rose by 22% so far this year, while freight rates have also increased as demand returns following the pandemic, accompanied by wage inflation. With average fuel prices reaching the highest level on record and rising inflation, there has been an unsustainable burden on logistics businesses which operate traditionally on very narrow margins of around 1%, the executive highlighted. Logistics companies aren't the only ones operating on narrow margins and struggling with supply chain snarls. In the US, retailers are scrambling to meet consumers' demand as product shortages and stockouts become the new norm. A survey from Bright Pearl exposes the very thin ice on which US retailers are standing. Researchers found that over a third of US retailers are just 2 months away from running out of cash. The study of 500 retailers also found that 80% have been hit with supply problems since the start of the year. 52% have experienced stockouts, resulting in a loss of sales, and the supply crisis has added 23% to retailers' costs over the last year, with 51% saying they've increased prices as a result. We are in the worst supply chain crisis that any of us can remember, and there is no sign of the problems easing before the end of the year, said Bright Pearl CEO Derek O'Carroll. For retailers, the problems could be particularly severe as they prepare for autumn and peak trading in the months building up to the holiday season. Other issues included increased shipping costs, suffered by 59% of firms polled, and the increased prices of raw materials, 47%. The founder and CEO of global trading company Worsen, Kath Blackham, noted that if those problems aren't fixed in the next 6 months, there's a chance many of these companies will go bankrupt. If there is not consideration put to the supply chain issues in the next 6 months, I really feel there will be a lot of agencies that just can't survive financially, she said in an interview last week. But it seems unlikely that these issues are going to disappear on such short notice. Adding fuel to the fire, worldwide port congestion is being severely aggravated by labor slowdowns and strikes at US and European ports, which are consequently creating a massive backlog of containers that will take months to clear out, experts say. A report published by Import Genius revealed that millions of exports that were headed to the U.S. are now stuck in congestion at European ports in Germany and the Netherlands. Some of the items stranded at vessels are critical components to the auto sector, like lithium batteries, fully assembled automobiles, as well as a wide variety of auto parts and chassis. Home decor, flooring, and furniture were also listed. The congestion from these ports is spreading to other major ports in America, Import Genius highlighted. After months and months of relentless work to clear the gigantic backlog of shipping containers that mounted back to last year's holiday season, U.S. ports are getting clogged once again. Sea intelligence data shows that only 30% of arriving vessels are unloaded and prepped for their return trip on time. Clarkson's Container Ship Port Congestion Index pointed out that as of last Thursday, nearly 40% of the global fleet of containers was stuck at ports around the world, up from 31.5% in February, with Clarkson's observing in its latest weekly report that congestion on the U.S. East Coast has recently risen to near record levels. Reports of delays at U.S. terminals have dominated shipping headlines throughout the past year and remain a cause for concern as we enter the month of July, with container tracking firm Hapag-Lloyd noting that waiting times for berths are running upwards of 21 days at New York and New Jersey, while the queue off the port of Savannah is approaching record levels, with waiting times there in the region of 10 to 15 days. Meanwhile, on the West Coast, Oakland is suffering, with the firm warning that ships can wait from anywhere between 10 to 30 days for a space to open up at Oakland International Container Terminal. Moreover, Drury stated in a recent report that the container shortage is expected to intensify. It noted, "We estimate that effective container ship capacity will be about 15% below potential this year, following on from a 17% reduction last year." In the view of Andreas Braun, product director of Crane Worldwide Logistics, the biggest fear is still a repeat of the chaos seen in the port of LA last year. More disruption at the busiest shipping port in the world's biggest economy will only worsen an already stretched and stressed supply chain problem that's been tested and retested for the past 2 years, he said. The renewed congestion is not only shrinking the availability of containers, but is pushing up shipping rates, and these costs are passed over to the consumer, which adds to inflation pressures. Last week, Clarkson's Research released their half-year statistics on the Shipping Intelligence Network, and their overall index rose to a record high in June, with shipping cargo transportation averaging $38,844 per day, and that is a stunning 157% increase from just a year ago. Yes, the strikes have had a big impact, but the congestion has piled up so much that even if there were no more strikes, the situation would remain chaotic for the next 3 months, Braun continued, adding that this has created a domino effect of delays. Vessels leaving Europe to the U.S. East Coast will be behind schedule. There is no catching up, he stressed. With all that said, it's clear that the just-in-time worldview system for shipping goods from nation to nation has been broken. Right now, a number of manufacturers are already grappling with parts and raw material shortages. Airlines are canceling flights. Railroads and trucks are cutting shipments. And for U.S. consumers, this means more depleted shelves of food and other essential items. In the current situation, the wide range of shortages highlights a serious problem. In fact, according to Kerem Alkin, an economist and professor at Medipol University, the world is moving towards a doomsday scenario. In a recent paper, the professor defined such a doomsday scenario as the convergence of 3 major threats facing the world economy and international politics, and all of them are rooted in the supply chain crisis. Alkin argues that energy, food, and shipping disruptions are set to reach even more unmanageable levels in the coming autumn and winter, which can turn the lives of billions of people upside down. Given that both the US and Europe are facing shortages of diesel, gasoline, natural gas, and power, many areas will not have reliable access to heating or electricity in the coming months. Even worse, this means that millions of people won't have access to some essential nutrients as food production slows down around the globe. And ongoing shipping bottlenecks will make it harder to distribute and deliver goods to the worst affected areas. We are talking about feeding a significant part of the population, which is estimated to be between 350 million and 500 million people worldwide, once a week under the best conditions, he wrote. The combination of the three black swans are gonna trigger aftershocks that will leave all actors in the global system face to face with a doomsday scenario. The perception and concern about the doomsday scenario is so serious that economies such as China and India have intensified their export restrictive measures despite all criticism, Olkin highlighted. On top of everything else, the concretization of this rather apocalyptic scenario will come as major economies fall into recession, inflationary or stagflationary crises, and also face an uptick in unemployment rates. We have to remind ourselves that while our domestic food supply continues to get tighter and tighter, many nations are already experiencing widespread hunger and famine. With drought and crop failures plaguing our agricultural sector, it is safe to say that our food production will not be able to meet the global demand. And given that global conflicts are spreading and economic issues are dramatically deteriorating, unrest and upheaval will become more likely in the months ahead. For those who ask why the supply chain crisis is such a big deal, there, you have it. Supply chains connect the entire planet and provide us with goods that are essential to our daily lives. But when that flow is interrupted, the foundations of our society start to crumble and turbulence starts to emerge. All of the updates we have shared with you today indicate that the nightmare is far from over. And as we always advise you, and will always continue to do so, you should start preparing accordingly.